Welcome to Toastmasters Live. We are the only club in this district and one of only 4 in this country to broadcast our regular Toastmasters meeting on public access TV. My name is Vasab Sahni, and I have the distinct honor of being your Toastmasters for this meeting. I promise that just like our previous 3 meetings, this will be another fun meeting. So let's get started. The word of the day is inertia, which is a noun that means the tendency to do nothing or the tendency to be unchanged. The theme of this meeting is uncomfortable situations. Now, all of us face uncomfortable situations every day. Forgetting someone's name whom you have known for a long time, or confronting a coworker who slacks at work, or making small talk at a party, or speaking in public. Life is full of uncomfortable situations. While it may not look like it, but if you overcome the initial hesitation and the fear and the uncertainty that is associated with uncomfortable situations, there is a lot to learn, and you become more creative in the process. Because once you step out of your comfort zone, your body triggers a unique portion of your brain that releases dopamine and creates new neural pathways in your body that makes you more creative. So if being uncomfortable is so good, why don't we do it? The answer is inertia. You don't want to feel the fear. You don't want to feel the uncertainty that's associated with uncomfortable situations. But if you overcome just that initial fear, there is so much more to benefit from being in those situations. So with that initial remark, I would like to get this meeting started. We have a very interesting lineup today. 2 short speeches followed by a round of lively, impromptu table topics.
Today, Kent Hawks is doing a speech called Tell Your Story. It is the first project in the Communicating on Video Advanced Manual project. The project is called Straight Talk. What Kent will be doing is he's going to do 2 different editorials. One is Society in Crisis, and then the second one is the importance of storytelling. In this project, he first will show a cause. He will also show a firm conviction, and then evidence to support his points, and then show reasoning that supports his arguments. I will be looking for these elements and will provide an evaluation for his speech later in this meeting. Madam General Evaluator.
Our first speaker for tonight is Kent Hawks, who is doing project number 1 from the manual Communicating on Video. The title of the project is Straight Talk, and the title of his speech is Sharing Your Stories. Kent will do this speech in 2 parts. The first part will talk about storytelling in general. So please welcome Kent Hawks.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our welcome community out in North Metro. We have a society in crisis. Our society is continually being bombarded from media outlets, hundreds of media outlets, whether you listen to a podcast, a newscast, or just tune in to your local TV news station. We are continually being told what is going on out there, what is happening in the world, and we really don't necessarily know what to believe of what all of the different choices are, or do we? It's important that when we listen to each of these media feeds, each of these broadcasts, each of these news items, we pay attention to what they're telling us. We don't just take it, we don't want to just take it in and believe what they tell us. We have a responsibility as citizens, concerned, intelligent, thinking citizens of this country and of the world. We have to take all the information and assimilate it and make it make sense in our world, in our personal world, in our personal belief systems. By taking that information in and assimilating it with our belief systems, we have the ability to form our own opinions, to form our own ideas, and to help to shape society's outlook on all the different aspects of what's going on. One of the most important things that we have in our society is this choice, this freedom to make decisions, to take in the information that we are getting, and to take that information and make it important and valid to us as individuals. Now more than ever, fellow Toastmasters, fellow citizens, it is vital that we take the information provided to us, make it into our own belief systems, adjust it with our belief systems, share it with our communities, share it with our leaders, and share with our leaders our interest that our beliefs be not only known, but made a part of our society. We construct our society, we elect the leaders in our society, and it's vital that we make sure that our society follows our beliefs as a people, as individuals, as a community, as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent. Now let's move to the second part of Kent's speech. The title of this speech is Toastmasters Live. Welcome again, Kent Hawks.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our welcome audience in North Metro TV. I'm here to tell you today about the value of storytelling and why it's so important to use every venue that we can. Storytelling is how people have shared not only their histories, but their feelings, their emotions, and the meaning of life around them. I belong to a storytelling club. I also share stories with a couple of other organizations in my life. But most importantly, I share stories with my family. My reason that I am truly a believer in storytelling and the importance of storytelling is that a few years ago, I lost my father. He had a stroke, stayed a few more months with us, and he stayed with us a few months thereafter. Before his stroke, I had only spent a little bit of time over the years learning about my father. He would tell a story now and then about his time in World War II in the Navy, traveling across the sea on a loading ship for tanks, or an LST as they were called. He talked about going across North Africa, and he talked about being in the Navy during World War II. But that's all I really heard. It wasn't until after he passed away that I found out that there was a bit more to the story. But he never shared it with us. I learned from his friends while preparing to give a eulogy at his funeral. I learned from his friends that he not only went into the Mediterranean with the Navy and across northern Africa, he also was stationed for a while in Italy. I knew that my father was a construction worker, a carpenter, and a tinsmith. He made anything out of tin. What I didn't know is that he picked up a part of that skill as an aircraft mechanic, fixing up aircraft in Italy as they came back from the front in Germany, supporting the invasion from the south of taking back Germany from the Hitler regime. That story didn't come to me until after he was gone. I didn't have a chance to get the details from him. If I had known that, I would have been able to ask more questions, understand the man even more. Well, we have pictures of my father shortly before he passed away. He hadn't recovered his speech yet, but he did have conversations with my 15-month-old daughter. And they would sit there and talk back and forth at each other, and none of us knew what they were saying. I so wish that she knew his story and what he had to say. I wish I knew the story to share with her. What I do know is that I have the ability to share my stories with my daughter so that she will know my stories and she won't have to guess. She won't have to find out after I'm gone. That's the importance of storytelling. With sharing our stories with our family, our friends, our communities, they know who we were. They know who we are now. And in the future, they'll be able to look back and know each of us for who we were from our stories, our perspectives. Toastmasters is only one outlet for that. Toastmasters Live is an opportunity for me to share with you and hopefully inspire you to step up, come join us, and share your stories. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kent. Now let's move to our impromptu part of the meeting, table topics. Our table topics master for the day is Teresa Feng. Let's welcome Teresa.
Hello, thank you. I'm the table topics master today, and our theme is uncomfortable situations. I had some time to really think about these questions. There's a few questions I wrote down and thought I better not do that because if somebody from work watches this, they might figure it out. It took me a little bit to get these questions, so I'm hoping everybody will have fun with them and just have fun with them. Our first table topics person, our first question is, how do you handle this situation? You're pulled over by a cop and you don't know why he pulled you over. What do you do?
Good evening, officer. I'm sorry for any inconvenience I may have caused. I'll make sure to keep my hands and my arms inside the vehicle and placed in the steering wheel with no sudden movements made. Here you go. Here's my registration and here's my license as well and my proof of insurance. No, I wasn't going anywhere fast or anything at all. And boy, you look great. Did you just get a haircut or something? Anyways, here you go. Here are all my documents, and I'll wait peacefully and quietly as you make the correct process complete.
Well, thank you, Tyler. My next question is, what do you do when someone keeps asking you if you're okay? And in this situation, your emotions are taking over and you are crying, you can't stop it. And you have this person asking you, are you okay, over and over. What do you do? George Deladuca.
Why did you put me crying, Teresa? I have an excellent example of am I okay? My daughter, Karen, does that all the time to me. I remember leaving the airplane just recently coming from Cozumel, and I took off walking, trying getting to the walking conveyors, and she was behind me because she says, I have to be behind you to make sure you don't fall. Okay, no problem. But are you okay? Well, yes, I'm okay. And then there's that text message. How are you doing? Are you okay? I think I'm still sane. I think I'm healthy. I don't think I have a problem. But no, I don't cry anymore. So I'm afraid that I can't answer your question specifically because I'm okay and crying. Not this time anyway.
All right, thank you, George. My next question is, what do you do when someone is not understanding what you are explaining and you have did multiple techniques and ways to show this person and this person still does not understand you? What do you do? Vasav Sani.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Masters, fellow members, and the viewership of North Metro TV. I had a situation like this happen to me 7 years ago. There are 4 characters in this story: myself, my very close friend, a girl, and her husband. 4 characters. Now, we were all in the same grad school, and the girl and me and my friend, we all knew each other from before. She was the most petite person that you had ever seen. Very cute and very, very small. We used to be all jealous because she could eat anything and not even gain an ounce of weight. And I would just pass by a pizza shop and gain 4 pounds. But once she got married, she maybe put on a little bit of weight, which my friend noticed. Now, they were planning to go to India for their honeymoon, and my friend said, maybe you should be careful while you're going to India. And she asked why. She said, because you shouldn't be traveling in your condition. She said, what condition? She said, yeah, you're pregnant, right? And the girl said, no, I'm not pregnant. And then I, who was standing right next to all of them, looking at him, I was praying in my mind that my friend doesn't say anything and go back, and we would never be friends with these people again. But no, that's not what my friend did. He went on to explain why he said this. He's like, oh, maybe you're not pregnant, but you did put on a little bit of weight, so I thought you were pregnant. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh God, can you please dig a hole for me as deep as China so I can just go down and come from the other part of the world? But that did not happen. I was still there. I'm tapping my friend. I'm like, just exit the scene, and he wouldn't leave. But at the same time, then at the end, I had to just intervene and say, oh, you know what, he was joking, whatever. But my friend did not get the very subtle signals that I was giving him. Needless to say, we are not friends with either that girl or her husband anymore. So that was maybe one of the most uncomfortable situations I've ever been with, involving a person who would not understand what I was trying to tell him. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Vasav. Thank you all for all those wonderful examples. Everyone in the audience needs to remember these examples and see what you would do if you ended up in an uncomfortable situation.
Thank you, Therese, for this wonderful round of table topics. Now let's move to our evaluation part of the meeting. Our general evaluator for the day is Sue Thomas. Please welcome Sue.
Hi, I'm Sue Thomas. I'm your general evaluator tonight. My role is to introduce each of the members of the team who's going to evaluate each part of this meeting. And at the end of their input, I will be giving a general input about the entire meeting. So let's start with introducing our grammarian counter, Lee Howard.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator. Well, it was quite a meeting. We had the word of the day used several times. To start off with, Vasav actually used the word of the day, I believe it was just once, but I could be wrong. I had a tough time following him. His speech is so clear that it's hard to find any issues with him whatsoever. Sue, you're the same way. I have trouble finding any discrepancies in your speech, any false starts or anything. There really isn't anything. You're just clean as can be. Kent, well, you give us an opportunity to listen to you a little bit longer. I found 3 opportunities where you could have introduced a pause rather than maybe doing a false start. In a false start, what I mean is you start a sentence and then you start it again to complete it out. So you're repeating a couple of words or maybe even just a couple of sounds. I don't know how to explain it, but that's it jumped out at me. And I did count 1 awe. Teresa, I caught you with 3 false starts. Again, and I think it has something to do with this stage, because I think I'm catching myself right now giving a couple of false starts. Starting a sentence, just did it right there. Starting a sentence and then proceeding on. I think it's a bit of nerves, maybe the camera, and now I'm going back and forth between cameras. Don did a great job. We got the word of the day from Don once. I did count 1 awe and 2 false starts. Taylor, as usual, perfection. And George as well. And then Vasov, during the table topics, I did catch a couple of ands. But other than that, it was fantastic. Inertia really didn't set in with anybody here. We managed to roll through things quite well. And we're starting to finally get our momentum within Toastmasters Live, which I'm happy to say this is our 4th episode now. So congratulations, and on that note, I'll hand it back to you, Madam Evaluator.
I'd like to introduce our evaluator for speech number 1, Don Matthews.
Kent's first speech of Society in Crisis. The first thing I noticed was what was his cause. His cause was plainly stated, we are in crisis. But he gave us little evidence and little conviction, spent a lot of time telling us what we should do, how we should think, and how we should respond, rather than explaining his conviction to the society in crisis. One thing that I feel, Kent, for improvement is that if you're going to convince people and bring them to a call to action, you will first need to overcome their inertia with just a little bit more conviction. Now, I did like your delivery. You were, first of all, you were up to the lectern, you were well into the microphone, you did not drift off. Sometimes you've, in the past, have fallen back from the microphone, but what's nice is you did not hang on this lectern. It was very nice to see you're very well poised and looking good behind this lectern. For Kent's second editorial, the first thing I noticed was that this is something that I know you're very, very passionate on, is storytelling. Is I'm in the same club that you are with the Storytelling Toastmasters, and telling stories is what we do, and it's a great thing. Now, for Kent's second editorial, The Importance of Storytelling, it was pretty interesting that this time you had actually used a story and made it your entire point, rather than using the story as an example. Now, one thing that I do know is from being in the same Toastmasters club as Kent for storytelling, that we tell stories all the time and we're very passionate about telling stories. One of the things that we can sometimes let get away with us is letting the story become the point. Whereas in this editorial, the project was saying, what is the cause? Back it up with the cause. What are your points? But you can use the story to use as an example, not necessarily making the story make the point for you. And then when you wrapped it up with, that is the importance of storytelling, left me a little empty and wanting more. Like, well, what exactly is the importance of storytelling? It is obvious to you and it's obvious to me, but it's not obvious to everybody. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Next, we'll have our timer report from Dan Nelson.
Okay. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Now for the timings for this meeting. Kent, with your first speech, you went over a bit in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. For your second one, you also went over 3 minutes and 55 seconds. So again, it was over for both of those. For the table topics, Tyler, you were a little short. It was 44 seconds. George, you met it at 1 minute, 2 seconds. And Vassiv, you did yours a little bit over 2 minutes and 14 seconds. For the evaluation, Don, I guess I took at both of your evaluations, put them together, and I got 2 minutes and 33 seconds. The first one was a minute 23, the second one was a minute 10. So together you were again in that 2 to 3 minute period of time. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dan, for that accurate report. Next, we're going to have an announcement of our table topics winner, also from Dan Nelson. Well, that wraps up the evaluation portion of our meeting, other than a few thoughts by myself about the meeting in general. We did start a little late, but I can tell you that was not due to inertia. That was due to a few technical difficulties. I look at that as putting ourselves into a learning mode with some uncomfortable challenges and uncomfortable situations. We did well. We learned tonight. It will go smoother next week. We are closing about on time, so we caught up somewhere in the middle. We all got to experience a few uncomfortable situations through table topics. Everyone survived that as well. I'm proud of the team. Being this is only our 4th meeting, and we've overcome so many challenges already in the first 4 meetings, I'm confident that meeting number 5 will go even smoother. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Well, I had fun in this meeting. Just like I promised in my initial remarks, this meeting was going to be fun. This is our 4th Toastmasters Live meeting, and I am very happy to see all the speakers, the table topics responders, and the evaluators do a great job. Also, the timer and the grammarian did a great job. I really look forward to our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks. But for now, I also want to give our guest, Mike Mitchell, an opportunity to present his thoughts. Please welcome Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters of this club. It was a real privilege and an honor to be here this evening. I really learned a great deal from the speakers and from the evaluators and from the way this whole meeting was organized. And I look forward to paying a return visit at the next meeting. Once again, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Mike, for your comments. Our next meeting is on the 12th of September. We meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of every month. I want all of you to visit us at North Metro TV. Until next time.